in this way. When this contract was conceived, usually you would understand, or the honorable members would understand, that there are three parties to the contract. There is the employer, there is a contractor, and there is the consultant or the project manager. Now, as the governing law in Zambia,
Mr. Engineer, whatever your name is, I didn't get your name, apologies. We don't come here to start schooling us about contracts. We do understand contracts. So tell us, answer the question, not to you to start telling us the three parties to a contract. The people seated in this committee are well vested with what you're talking about. So can you proceed and answer the questions? If you have not understood the questions, I can ask honorable members to rephrase for you. Proceed.
So when it comes to the consultant, the Zambian laws demand that if somebody is contracted from outside, there should be a component of the Zambian representation in this country. And in that context, we have DA and A+. So DA and A+, there was the component which was for Kwacha and the other component which was for dollar. So for easy transaction for the consultant to be to have the money, there was need to have one currency, thereby so that when somebody is getting the money.
Yes, Honorable Daka. You can switch off your mic.
Chair, the question that I've asked the controlling officer is it's a simple and straightforward question. Was it contractual? Where in the contract was it provided for that you should convert the Kwacha component to dollar at a rate of 9th August 2018? Simple. Because whatever you are doing should be backed up by the terms and conditions of a contract. This committee relies on facts. We don't want people to come here and start speculating. We want people to come here and present documentation that actually empowered them, where they drew authority from to make their decisions. These are contracts. You don't apply contracts. Contracts, the way you implement contracts, you are governed and guided by the terms and conditions of a contract. And as such, this committee is not interested in any other explanations. We want to know, this decision that was made, was it in lines with the terms and conditions of the contract? Simple and straightforward. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. I don't know if it's the engineer, I don't know, forgive me. When you proceed, you reintroduce yourself so that we call you accordingly to your position. Honorable Daka has clarified. Honorable Mfarari, he has clarified, so you proceed to answer his question. Yes, Honorable Mfarari.
Yes, could I know whether we have the fellow Wilson Lung, Mr. Wilson Lung here? Sorry. Chair, I was saying, could I know whether we have Mr. Wilson Lungu here?
Mr. Wilson Lungu is not here.
What about Mr. Casey? Is it Mulangu or Mulao? Position PS. Oh.
That's Kakuluwe.
Oh, this is
former PS.
Oh, the PS. Where the witness? This SPSU. Who is the SPSU now? Do we have SPSU head here?
Former head of procurement.
Oh, we have him, eh?
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
What we have currently is we have me, who is the former head of procurement.
Yes.
That was 2021 May to November 2021. And now we also have head procurement currently, Mr. Chavuga. Both him and me were not there at that moment. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mfarari.
Where is Mr. Lungu Wilson? Which ministry is he sitting at?
PS did your team trying to make contact with Mr. Lungu, or is he still serving under government, or is not serving?
Yeah.
We tried to make contact with Salungu. Currently, Chair is not serving. I think he's one of those officers previously serving at the ministry that are still undergoing judicial processes with regards to a lot of questions that still are pending in the ministry. But we did try to make contacts, and we couldn't possibly get him here.
Thank you. Okay, Honorable, we've got a follow-up question. Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the engineer who is being referred to say he's part of this project of King Salman, you were part and parcel to the proceedings of ensuring that this money is paid and the currency or the exchange rate goes back to 2018. Chair, they had to change a contract agreement in order for them to settle at the 2018 agreement of rates. And that's why I was looking for these two people that signed this amendment. There's an amendment, contract amendment, on is it page 21? No, it's not page, but somewhere within they are amending.
Yes. It was first discussed in the MPC, and in this MPC, it was prepared by Madam Chomba, who is here. So maybe since she was part of it,
yes, let her take it.
Madam Chomba, maybe you can also come and first take former head. Look, sit.
No,
you sit here. You where there is a former head of procurement. You can exchange for now. Then I want you to answer the question from Honorable Daka, the engineer. You can proceed. Honorable Daka rephrased the question. You are on the floor. Before Honorable Mfarari came in, you can proceed and answer your question. No. He took the question. You can proceed. Proceed.
Through the chair, I think there are two questions which were being rephrased. Maybe if I could get the one particular which I should answer. Thank you.
The question from Honorable Daka, he rephrased it for you. Honorable Daka, proceed and ask him the question. I want him to answer the question. Yes.
Third time.
For the third time.
Third time, Chair.
Yes. Please pay attention and be attentive to the question so that we don't repeat ourselves. Honorable, you can proceed.
The contract for consultants, as already alluded to by yourself, that there were two parties, the international party and the local party. And the reason behind why there was a Kwacha component is because it was meant for the local participation. Now, you people, later, you decide to sit and start converting the monies or the component which was made for the local participation into dollar. And whatsoever motivation which this committee would want to know later. But the question that I raised was that where were you drawing authority to pay or to exchange, to change the Kwacha component using the 2018 rate? Where in the contract was it provided for to permit you to conduct yourself in the manner in which you conducted yourself? That's my last time I'm asking you this question. I'm sure it's very clear and straightforward. I submit, Chairman.
Thank you. You can proceed and answer the question.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Member. The money, the uniformity of the payment of the money was because the money is not being paid from here. It's being paid from from Saudi Arabia. So when the money is dispersed, it's dispersed in dollar. So we followed the addendum which is attached into the submission in order to have the smooth payment of the interim payment certificate or the stage payment for the consultant. Thank you.
But I have a follow-up question.
Chair, now the committee is at sea. Chair, the committee is at sea now. Yes, there was an addendum to the contract just like my colleague Honorable Mfarara has already alluded to. But do you think you are on the government side? And do you think the decision that we are making here was in the interest of government or not? Because here, if you look at what we are agreeing to, was leading to a serious wasteful expenditure on the side of government. Why should you be subjecting government to what we refer to bad conditions when you knew that whatever decision you are making here was making government to be at a loss, and yet you are on the side of government? Can you convince this committee what was your motivation of amending a clause which was advantaging government, and this time around disadvantaging the same government by you government officers? I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. The engineer can proceed through the PS and answer that question. When you answer that question fully, then Madam Chomba will come through and also help us understand this MPC, where she prepared and what was obtaining on the ground. You can proceed.
Maybe through the chair and the honorable members, when the project was procured, us as the part of the engineers, we came in to implement. I think the issues of who sat and amend and do all the formalities would be better be handled by procurement, as we are implementing a contract that was signed, duly signed. Thank you. I submit, Chair.
The engineer is now running away from the question to answer. That is now procurement. When you were submitting before this honorable committee, you started teaching us about the contract. Now you are again not explaining. The same contract which is threefold, there's a consultant, there's a client. Why are you now eluding from explaining to us those terms, engineer? Why? Because we wanted to school us on the contract. Why are you not explaining?
Through the chair and the honorable members of the committee, I think, permit me to submit that I wouldn't want to mislead the Honorable House by submitting something which I'm not very much have 100% information. But I'll be very quickly to submit that we are implementing the contract which was duly signed, and we are following it because it is binding to both parties. I submit, Chair.
The Chief Procurement Officer, you had an MPC to change, I don't know, Honorable Daka, if it's a clause or what, concerning this condition of the contract. Maybe help us understand what you were changing and what was the basis and motivation of you to change that. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Through the PS.
Please speak up a bit. Put your mic closer.
Okay. So the procurement paper was prepared according to the request by the user department. Receive the requests from the user department and present to MPC as we are Secretariat. I submit.
Honorable Mkumbi, then Honorable Mfarara.
Chair, then who owns this document? Our colleagues in the engineer is saying we were just implementing procurement, are saying with the user department. Then who owns this document? So that we begin from there, Chair.
Thank you. PS, maybe help us. We are now at sea as a committee, because engineering or Department of Infrastructure are saying they just implement. So they just close their eyes and implement. Even if it's wrong, they're implementing. You go to, so who's the user department? Maybe user department can help us clarify this issue. Yes, Honorable Mfarari, then Honorable Amnyima, then Honorable Dak.
Chair, we will go to their minutes, so maybe their minute to be able to help, because they are explaining something. But before we go to the minutes where they are trying to explain something, the question that came from Honorable Kalumbila was,
could you tell this committee what's the composition of the MPC at the time?
Yes.
Who are the people who were involved to approve and to start changing the goal positions or goalposts to go into this agreement based on a general manager who was demanding for more dollar based on a lower kwacha? Who is this? Who are those who are part of the MPC? May we have the names? Physical engineer, Mr. What's his name again?
What's your name, sir?
Mr. Silongo.
Silongo.
You are mentioned in the minutes. They were giving you power to change the currency, and you agreed to that. Now, could we know first, before we get to you, who are the committee members of the Ministerial Procurement Committee that sat or that were actually doing the procurement? Not these few names that we are seeing here. We know the composition of Ministerial Procurement, especially for the Ministry of Health, how you used to compose it then, even now. Can we know who are involved now? Chief Procurement Officer, you can help us on that before we come to the real issues here.
Thank you. I'll allow the Chief Procurement Officer to proceed. Then Honorable Amnyima, you come in. Then Honorable Daka, then Honorable Mkosa. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. For me to know I have to look for the minutes of this particular meeting. That's when we'll know the people who actually sat and approved this particular procurement. I submit.
So are you telling us, Chief Procurement Officer, that what you've attached is wrong? Because we've seen this. These are your minutes, PS. And I think PS, we need some seriousness, because with your people, first and foremost, we don't want to send you back. You come. We are aware of your ministry, how busy, and when we say let's have this information, it should all come in totality. But if the people are coming to submit to say we have to go back and look at again the MPC, and it doesn't make sense, because we've already guided and we needed this information. That's why we're now, it's like we're doing back and forth. We agreed this should be done. We want to let you go and deal with the people of Zambia. This is a very important and strategic ministry where you've got a lot of things pending on your tables. We don't want you to be always here. Again, we say, PS, go back. Already on infrastructure, what we've gotten is not befitting. We are saying we can't proceed on that. Then again, on this one, we are saying MPC, we have to go and look. We've seen some names here, but this is not conclusive, like Honorable Mfarad is saying. There's J. Chomba who produced, there's W. Lungu, Wilson Lungu, there's Chairperson, Director Finance, Secretary MPC. I don't know these signatures. Maybe Madam Chomba, you don't know these people. Is this the former Director Finance who's here? Is it him who signed here? Is Director Finance, is this your signature? Maybe you can show him the submission which has been made, because there's Director Finance here. The addendum, Auditor General, maybe just show, let them show the Director Finance if that's his signature. Then Secretary MPC, there's just Secretary, there's no full name. Director, is that your signature?
Chair, no, it's not my signature.
You were not there in 2020?
2020 I was there.
Yeah, but there's Director of Finance and there's a signature here. Honorable Amnyima, can proceed with the question.
Chair, the Chief Procurement Officer must not run away from her own minutes. She prepared them. You prepared them, madam, these minutes. You can't run away from them. You even said it is recommended that the Director of Fiscal Planning, Medical Technology, be granted authority of them is to change the tender sum from Zambian kwacha to United States dollars. The country lost over $400,000 US.
And Chair, she's coming before this committee to say hey, we must give her time. What was informing this? You're the one who prepared this, and you're still there. We need answers. So, Chair, I'm asking that could she explain? Let her tell us, because this, first of all, we will not tolerate Chair to say we come back. They are here, they're coming back for the second time. So I think Chair, she needs to be helpful. She needs to be helpful. Unless if she's saying she can't remember what she prepared, but it's here.
Thank you, Honorable Wamnyima. Honorable Daka.
Chair, mine is to the controlling officer. May the committee know who was the project manager for this very contract, first of all. Because he is the one actually who applied to be granted the authority to change the contract sum from kwacha to dollar. May this committee know. I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mkosa.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. J. Chomba, Chief Procurement and Supplies Officer. You are the one who prepared this document, the MCP paper. And in one of your responses, you said this was based on what you were requested by the user department. So now, I would like you to explain to this committee, as per the question that was asked by Honorable Wamunyima, the justification that was in the document that you were given, in the document or request that you were given by the user department. I would like you to categorically explain to this committee the justification for changing the currency, the exchange, for converting the currency. Then number two, I would like you to give us some form of evidence that indeed what you did was based on what you stated that you were requested by the user department in form of evidence. It can be in form of document or any record that you have, so that we can appreciate why you did what you did. Then former finance director, is this your signature here among the people that approved this MCP paper on page 5 of, I don't know if you have the document that we have.
It's been shown the document.
So it's not your, this is, you know who was sitting.
Thank you. Before Director, you come in. Thank you for those questions. PS, through you, PS, I want the Chief Procurement. You are the one who prepared this document. First and foremost, Honorable Amnima has asked you a question. Honorable Mkosa has asked you a question. Then PS will help us, who was the project manager. So can you proceed and answer those questions as asked? And in your submission, this minute you wrote, if you look at 1.0 introduction, you are saying the Director Physical Planning and Medical Technology is seeking authority from procurement. That's why Honorable Mkosa is saying, can you tell us what was a composition of that request, what was in it? Why were they asking for this? So, Madam, you can proceed and answer those two questions with clarity and evidence and no excuse. You can proceed. Then you will come to the issue of the project manager. You can proceed. And then also, you are the one who sent this document. So I want to know who signed as Director of Finance. Yes, Honorable Farage.
Chair, we have the physical planning here. The Director of Physical Planning should be able to answer.
Where's the Director of Physical Planning?
The one who was Director this time must be able to answer, because they are the ones who made the request. It's very clear.
Physical Planning? Where is the acting director who was here last time? Where is he?
Chair, Mr. Oamlume is sitting in the director. He's a Deputy Assistant Director of Physical Planning. The substantive physical planning Mr. Mwanza is arriving today from China, where he'd gone in connection with this same project to do due diligence on the equipment that's supposed to be fitted in the hospital. But the David Director should answer for him. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Madam Chomba, you can proceed. Then Mr. Wamulume, you come in to help us after that. I'm trying to see where you sit. First, Chief Procurement, you can proceed and answer those questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. Through the PS, to answer Honorable Wamnima's question, I did prepare this paper, and maybe I should mention that is the Ministry Procurement paper. That is what we submit to the Procurement Committee for them to approve. And after that, that's when we produce the minutes, and that's when we put all the names of the people who attended that meeting. So that's to say why there are only those few names. It was because that was the paper that was submitted to the Procurement Committee. And then on the justification.
So when you prepared this document,
yes,
who signed as Director of Finance? You don't know? And you've been in the ministry, you don't know that signature for Director of Finance. Who was there? Who signed? Was there an acting director? Because the substantive who was there during that period is saying he doesn't know that signature. So maybe explain for us.
As I had earlier said, I would have to check who attended that MPC then for me to know who was sitting in as Director of Finance.
Yes, Honorable Homer.
Why didn't you do that, Chair? You were sent back to bring information on this. Why should you keep this committee to be waiting? You should have checked. You wrote the minutes. You now don't know who sat. You are saying you have to go. You tell us who sat there. Because you went back. You had time to. So, Chair, through you, maybe the PS can assist us. Is this the treatment you're subjecting the committee to come here and submit nothing? Because we requested for this information. I submit it.
Thank you. PS, we are laboring. And we also would like to know who was the project manager.
Yes, Chair. On this subject, I share your anxiety and frustration. I do expect that the Chief Purchasing, having prepared the minutes, have no doubt that she sat in the Procurement Committee meeting that's approved, and I would expect that she'll use her memory. I know it's almost 3 years ago, but this was a special sitting, and she would use her memory to understand which other people sat in there, and also should be able, I expect should be able to identify the signature and just advise us who this was. On the issue of the project manager, Chair, the local project manager is called A+ Urban Techniques, and the manager for that, the director for that company is Mr. Chishimba Chama. He is in a sense, the project manager or local consultant. These words are used.
Honorable Daka, sorry, PS. Yes, Honorable Daka.
Chair, the consultant, unless otherwise, there is the absolute delegation. There should be a letter that the client, because the project manager usually is the client. A consultant basically is there to supervise or to design on your behalf. The authority to amend the contract is not part of his terms of reference. No. Issues that borders in amendment of the contract has nothing to do with the consultant. So, unless you show this committee proof that you delegated that responsibility to the consultant, absolutely. Otherwise, the project manager comes from the client. He or she is supposed to come from your ministry controlling officer, not the consultant. A Plus was a consultant, where you gave him delegated responsibilities. Of course, I don't think you gave him the responsibility to temper or to do with any amendments to the contract. I can disagree with you on that one, controlling officer. So can you tell this committee, maybe the people who have escorted the controlling officer, Mr. Chairperson, let them be very honest to the controlling officer. Let them not hide information from him. Chair, I submit that basically they are misleading the controlling officer to eventually to mislead this committee. Chair, I don't agree that a consultant was a project manager under this contract unless the controlling officer can give us a letter where he delegated that responsibility to the consultant. I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Daka. PS, we are really struggling.
Yes, Chair. I agree Honorable Daka's point. On that score, the project manager in our ministry is then the director of fiscal planning, and Mr. Wamlome must be able to fit in very competently.
Mr. Wamlome, maybe we can take a seat. I'll still call you back, sir. Maybe we can take back your seat and help us understand.
Shall I say this because the team, the fiscal planning team, are always on site, and there are times I have asked them, I've told them that I should get to understand everything that goes on the site through them. They've been holding meetings with the contractors, both in the ministry and on site, so as I take it, the project.
Honorable Daka. Yes, thank you, PS. Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. The issue of the project manager controlling officer is clearly stipulated in the contract. We are not going to speculate here. Can we be shown who was the project manager as stipulated in the contract? There are no gray areas there. The contract indicates clearly who was the project manager. And from the correspondence, you can see that the team from your ministry under, is it physical planning, are the ones who are a project manager. And that's why they were applying for authority. So which means they bought into the idea of the consultant to change the kwacha component into dollar. He couldn't have recommended to the ministerial procurement committee if he didn't agree with the consultant to amend. So basically, in-house, that's why you find the project manager. And it cannot be shown. Where is the contract? We want to see in the contract who was the project manager, because he's the one who is supposed to bear this responsibility and take full responsibility for this action, which was done in bad faith and made government to lose a colossal sum of money in dollars. I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. Maybe the acting director, physical planning, can you answer that question? You can proceed.
The MPC's got members that sit on it, and Director of Physical Planning is one of the members. And the deliberations from the MPC are confidential. So I'm not privy to what transpired fully. So I don't want to mislead this House on this item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Farade.
May I just find out from the physical planning department, do you at any given time, did you have any meeting where you discussed the issues of changing the kwacha to dollar on the consultant? Do you remember any meeting sitting with your head of the department and you agreed to say, okay, this is what we'll do, and the letter is written, or the director just went ahead and made a proposal and gave it to the MPC? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Daka. You can proceed.
Chair, let the Chief Procurement Officer, I think, answer some of the queries. The one query which is remaining for you, Chief Procurement Officer, is these are very few names. And from this submission, your preparation, you knew the people that you were supposed to sign this minute. You know, we don't want, Chair, we don't want Chief Procurement Officer, we don't want to look like we are harassing you. We want you to be factual, we want you to be open, and we want you to be free here. You are enjoying immunity here. The immunity you are enjoying here, no one will prosecute you for saying the truth before this committee. We don't want to go the route of harassing or trying to be so hard on you. We want you to be very factual. These are very few names. How many people sat in that? Were you 5, 10, or 20? Who sat where you were the secretary? Because you look like you are the secretary here, because you are the one who prepared the minutes. And you started going around now to have people sign. And you can't remember the director of finance who was there. You can't remember the permanent secretary who was there. Who was the permanent secretary who was there the time you were going around signing? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Chief Procurement, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. So the secretary of the procurement committee is the head procurement, and he's the one who signs in the paper. So for me as the chief, I will prepare the paper. And on the number of people who sit in the committee, there's the permanent secretary, and we have I think that was about 8 directors who sit in the committee. I submit.
Honorable Daka. Vice Chair, you have a question. You can proceed then, Honorable Mfarari and Honorable Amnyima.
Thank you, Chair. Most of my submission were submitted by Honorable Mfarari, but I have a challenge because as Zambian workers, Zambian officers, and then us as members of parliament representing our people, when we come to such issues, we're supposed to be open. But what I'm seeing, especially, and as a woman leader, I'm a bit disappointed because we have here on this list of, there were, I don't know whether it's 5 or 4 people, and the main people on top were the Chief Procurement and Supplies Officer and the Head Procurement. And the Chief, she's here. And what I've analyzed from her submission, starting from last week, she's not ready to help this committee. And we'll be going round, we're not going to be given answers. But the question is, why is Madam Chomba not ready to help this committee? Because we would have finished this issue last week and we've come back today. Imagine all our fellow members of parliament, they are on lists, as we are here because of these issues. We are stayed here, she's not ready to give us answers. Madam, you are working on behalf of Zambians. Can you help this committee? You are the first person to sign. And in my understanding, in my little education, one thing I've come to learn is that the most important and dangerous write-up in this world is a signature. I'll never sign something I don't understand. Before I sign a document, I have to understand it. Where I don't understand, I have to consult. And then I append my signature. For you appending the signature, you understand whatever was involved around this contract. And in relation to your position as procurement, you are the person who's supposed to help the PS, but you've just refused. So, Mr. Chair, me personally, I failed to understand what is going on because we are going around. This is the same thing we discussed last week, and it was the same personality she showed to this committee that she was not ready to help. So now, I don't know what we're going to do, Chair. Because we are asking the PSC who doesn't understand. And the understanding of this committee, this submission was given to the ministry before they came here. Meaning that these are the people who are supposed to help the PS understand this document. And now the people who are supposed to help the PS and the government, they are not ready to submit the answers. So I don't know what we are doing here as a committee. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, we are at sea. You can see how honorable members are struggling to just comprehend and understand. Honorable Mfarari, you can come in, then Honorable Daka, Honorable Mkosa, Honorable Amnyima, in that order.
Chair, I'm having difficulties, and really we don't want to go hard on Madam Chomba. We want, if you look in this room, there are very few women. It's a male-dominated sitting, and we don't want to go hard on you. I personally am a proponent of, I support women wherever they are, and I really don't want to go hard on you. But these minutes, you are the one who prepared the minutes. Well, you know how to prepare minutes. These are minutes. We are saying these are minutes. The preparation of any minutes indicates the people that made the resolution. In this minute, I don't know whether it's by default or by intention, you are not putting the people that attended the meeting. And you have even not attached any names that were involved in approving this. Under normal circumstances, we have all done these things. We know how minutes are supposed to be prepared. In order for you to stand safe from any encumbrances, you now say, when you are doing your minutes, you say, following the meeting that was held on such and such a date, approved by the following, you list the names. In this one, I don't know whether you are deliberately doing it or not. You have not indicated the people that sat to approve this. And there you are sitting, you are failing to tell us who was there. You are saying you have forgotten. This was just in 2020. I don't know, but I think if anything is serving me better, I guess I might be older than you, but I should have enough memory to remember things that happened 10 years ago. I can tell you things that happened even 20 years ago. But if you're unable to tell me things that happened 3 years ago or 2 years.
She's forgetting, sorry, Honorable Member, who was the Director of Finance who signed. She's forgotten. She needs to go and check.
No. No, but then, I mean, the brain does not work like that. I remember things that happened when I was in Nega, why I'm speaking Tonga today. When I was 4 years, I speak Tonga. I was just 4 years when I went to Nega. Now you're telling us, this committee, that 2 years ago you can't remember where you took these signatures, offices where you went to say, sign the minutes because we want to approve this, must be approved. Is that what you're telling this committee? I believe, Chair, I think you are not being fair with yourself, Madam Chomba. You are not being fair with yourself. It's only 2 years ago. If we can remember things that happened 10 years ago, I remember, you see, the PS seated here, I remember if you tell me who is Professor Kasonga, it comes in my mind immediately. And I'll tell you, say, I met him one time at University Teaching Hospital, he's the MD for that hospital. And I remember even the suit he was wearing. Now you're telling me that 2 years ago you can't remember. Ah, come on.
Thank you, Honorable Daka. And I want Chief Procurement Officer. Whatever Honorable Mfarari is saying, that there are a few women here, I want you to only answer. With that said, I want answers. If there are few, there are many, I need answers to that effect so that we proceed. Otherwise, you are going to force us to give contra or recommendations which won't be good for you. So we want you to answer the questions because you were there. There is documentary evidence here where you signed yourself. There is no way like he can be saying forget the Director of Finance who signed at that particular day. If I were you, sharpness and cleverness, you are told this is the issue we're going to deal with, go back. I'm going to take out documentation and what happened on this particular day, when we sat, who was there, where are they, what transpired. Then I come with my file and produce evidence. Unless you are telling us you are a hostile witness, you don't want to give us answers, I'll send you outside and you can go. I have no problem with that. I can send you away from my committee, you go, and we'll take it, you're an hostile witness, you don't want to give us answers to that effect. Because that's what now you are forcing us to do. And that's where you're coming out. Honorable Daka, you can make your submission, then I'll allow PS. Because now we're going round circles, things which you know yourselves.
Thank you, Chair. PS, I'm making reference to the contract that your ministry signed with the what we call with the Wakong enterprises. Yes, and I've gone to the particular condition of the contract. And general condition 1.1 Y, sub Y, where the contract indicates that the project manager for this contract was supposed to be DA Engineering. And then if I go to the sub Y 1.1, it's written that in the same contract that the project manager is a person named in the PCC, which is particular condition of a contract, or any other component person appointed by the employer and notified to the contractor. So this very particular person is supposed to be appointed by the employer, which is yourselves, which is the ministry itself. That's number one. And I've gone further to the same particular condition of the contract under 5.1, where it's clearly indicated, controlling officer, that the project manager will not delegate any of his duties and responsibilities. In the case that we found ourselves in now, is that we are in a mess. Because I presume you appointed DA Engineering to be the project manager. Now, a chairperson, what I'm wondering is that the project manager who has been entrusted to manage the project was making an application again to the ministry to be given authority to execute some certain activity or some certain duties in the contract. So I presume that the letter of appointment was restricted to some certain duties and responsibilities, of which I had indicated earlier that I don't think amendments or tampering with the terms of a contract was part of the responsibilities of the project manager, unless is given that authority by the employer himself. A controlling officer, to that effect now, this committee would want to be given evidence so that we appreciate the letter of appointment of DA Engineering as the project manager, and would want to appreciate, so that we appreciate the duties and responsibilities that were delegated to him. That would give us an impetus, would give us direction to how we should now ask questions, because we're in the dark. So please, controlling officer, can you submit the evidence or the letter of appointment of this very project manager? Attached to it should be the duties and responsibilities that you delegated to the aforesaid project manager. The committee would want to have it so that we can appreciate it. I submit, Chairperson.
PS, you can respond to the questions or you can redirect them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Honorable Daka, for those two questions. Before I address the concerns and questions from Honorable Member, I just want to get back to the Chief Procurement Officer and endeavor to try to refresh her mind, her memory, towards a name called Mr. Mwile, and if possibly she can relate this signature to that name and probably confirm whether that individual participated in the Ministerial Procurement Committee and help us move forward on the issue of the signature. Secondly, Chair, on the contract manager, I think this is only my understanding now that the issue of contract manager is coming up repeatedly, that there's been a misunderstanding on this project as to who should have been a contract manager in the real sense, because consistently the title of contract manager has been referred to the Mr. Chishimba Chama, who is the proprietor of A+ Urban Techniques. But going by the description that Honorable Daka has mentioned, the contract manager should have been drawn from the ministry, because this is a Ministry of Health project, and the contract manager to pursue the project on behalf of the ministry should have been the director of physical planning, which I don't think has been what has happened. So looking at all this, what has happened is that the contract manager has been assumed to Mr. Chimba, and repeatedly say he's a consultant, he's a project manager, and this is what has been brought to my attention, and that's what I've gone by. The last 12 months I joined the ministry, and this project came to be brought to my attention. The directorate, again, I get back to Mr. Mnima to equally with me acknowledge that this is what has been the trend, and probably explain why it has been like that. I submit, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Chief Procurement, you can respond on the issue of the signature.
So I've also made some consultations with Mr. Mumba, who was Director Finance then, and he has confirmed that it is the signature of the principal accountant.
Who is that one?
Mr. Mwile.
Mr. Mwile.
Yes, I submit.
Where is Mr. Mwile? Is he around?
No, he's not here with us.
But he's still in the system?
Yes, he is.
PS.
Chair, I'm guided that Mr. Mwile is still functioning under the ministry, on the Directorate of Finance. He's still working as senior, principal accountant.
Honorable Amir.
Thank you very much, Controlling Officer, for submission and the signature. He didn't PP sign. He signed in his capacity as the Director of Finance. So what was it? It's an offense. He didn't PP sign. He was purporting to be Director of Finance. This is must be reported. Why is he still comfortably working? Because this is not a PP signature. He's signed as Director of Finance. That is what you, maybe Director of Finance, did you delegate your authority to Mr. Mwire in writing for him to sign on your behalf? And maybe through you, Chair, we can want to understand how he purported to sign on his behalf. It doesn't add up. I submit, Chair.
Maybe the first question is, was he a Director of Finance that time, and then now he has been brought down to principal, so that we understand? Maybe he was Director, we can't, Director of Finance, you can respond to that question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through the PS. I was the Director of Finance. So anyone who attended the PS on my behalf was doing that on my behalf. I submit.
So he was using your position to sign the documents?
Because my position in MPC is substantive, I need to represent, especially where finances are concerned. So it's obvious I cannot be absent. And when I'm not around, I delegate, and I delegated. I delegated the principal accountant to represent me. So it is me he represented. I submit.
Intervention from AG over that submission.
My question hasn't been fully addressed. We were trying to get to the people who were responsible, the people who initiated this paper, and the substantive question lies in whether the entire team at the ministry, the decision that they made to allow a variation to convert the kwacha component into dollar using a 2018 rate was in the interest of the country or not. Who were they saving? Is it were they saving the consultant, or they were saving the Zambian people, the poor Zambian people? That's my substantive question. It's going there. It's been left hanging, Mr. Chairperson. All these things we have been doing, we have narrowed down on a question to find out from the people who are there whether the decision was made in the interest of Zambians. That was my questions. I submit, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you. PS is that question from Honorable Daka. And then there's Vice Chair wants to come in. Vice Chair can proceed. Honorable Mkosa. Then Honorable Mukumbi, is that a question? Okay, so there's a Vice Chair, then Honorable Mkosa. Then PS, you can proceed.
Oh, thank you, Chair. We just want to put the record straight. There was a submission from Director of Finance that anyone who would attend a meeting on his behalf will sign as Director of Finance. So, coming from the background of finance, wanted to get it from the AG's office if they can guide us. Then we move forward with the Honorable Daka's question. So I'd given AG to tell us.
Thank you. AG. Yes. Yes.
You are.
Wait, Director of Finance, yes or no?
I think you are asking a wrong team to validate the procedures. The person who should be able to tell us what they are supposed to do is the Accountant General, who is here. I think the Director of Finance sits right under the Accountant
General's office, yes. What is the standard procedure? Then I'll allow you, Director of Finance, to come in. Yes.
Chair, I think the Principal Accountant should have signed PP.
Yes.
I submit, Chair.
Yes. Yes, Honorable Mkosa first, because Honorable Mkosa, Honorable Omniba, you come in. Then Director of Finance, I'll still allow you to make your submission. Yes, Honorable Mkosa.
Chair, for me, I would just like to find out from the Chief Procurement and Supplies Officer, of course through the Permanent Secretary, who is the Controlling Officer, if you understood at the time when you were preparing this MCP paper that the recommendation that you were making was implying that the government of Zambia was going to lose money through exchange, foreign exchange losses. Did you understand that was the implication of the recommendations that you were making? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It's the same question. PS, I'm now even at sea. I'm at sea, but not yet on Atlantic. PS, you can proceed. Then I'll allow Director of Finance to make a submission.
Thank you, Chair. Honestly speaking, I'm also at sea now, because really it's only our colleagues that were there during the time that should help us state the pertinent question of in whose interest was that decision made. Because I'm sure during the meeting, during the committee, a discussion was held, just question where was given, and if not, I would expect a simple answer like, probably if there was no justification that they were making decisions to accept the exchange rate as it was, because that's what probably the funding entity or the funding organization impelled upon them, that they needed to accept whether they needed or not. In which case, then they will explain why they signed the contracts under those conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Director of Finance, you had the submission.
Thank you, Chair, and through the PS. It's just to put the record straight. I think I said that whoever I send or I will send to represent me will sign on my behalf. I didn't say that you would sign as Director of Finance. On behalf means PP. I think that I wanted just to clarify so that it's on record, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Finance. That's a standard procedure. I have people in my little canteen, but the firm who signs for me, they'll put PP. But if you don't put PP, then you're saying you're the owner, you're the Director of Finance. It's as simple as that. That's why we are questioning, because there's no PP whoever signed. So we don't understand what transpired. Honorable colleagues, I don't think for me there's any answers we've gotten. Honorable Amnyima.
Chair, yes, on the same, I actually made that submission that The gentleman did not put PPA. It's actually fraud. He misrepresented you. He actually impersonated you. And he's still there. And Chair, through you, urge the controlling officer to really check that such people are disciplined. And Chair, from what I'm seeing, we will forever remain at sea if we continue trying to get information on this issue. I think we need to make progress. And it is clear, it is abundantly clear that this contract was a scandal. It disadvantaged government. And the chief procurement here has not been helpful to assist for reasons best known to herself. So I propose we make progress, Chair, so that we can take position.
Yes, Honorable Mvarari, you can proceed.
I wanted to understand from the physical planning department. I think I had asked a question of whether they sat as a department to approve what the director had requested. That question I had put it earlier on, and I think it has not given an answer. But to be precise, Chair, the whole transaction is a scandal. No wonder I think the chief procurement officer is trying to run away from it. You knew so well that what you are doing, you people, was very wrong. Including the finance, if the finance director was aware of this is very wrong. And since he wants to take the hit that he sent people who never briefed him but went ahead and signed, he must bear the blunt. This is very wrong. $400,000 being shortchanged in such a fashion is not right. It's not right. And we want anyway, I don't know, at the end we will conclude to understand who should be penalized or who should, the recommendations, that we make recommendations. Because this is not right. People cannot sit, controlling officer, people should not sit and scheme to get $400,000 out of a transaction that should have been very small. These are some of the deals that we see when we have so many people controlling officers who are coming before this committee. And you can see from their transactions that people are literally thieving. People are manipulating the system, using certain clauses in contracts, and they come here and sit and look like angels. It's not in order. It's not right. People must account, and heads must roll on this.
Thank you. Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in the interest of progress, I think we have hit the rock end. And as a committee, I think we should have a position on this matter. Because it's very clear that actually it's a scandal. I agree with my colleagues, it's a scandal. You cannot, as government, as responsible government officers, who are supposed to protect the interests of the poor Zambians, who are all over our constituencies, very poor, can be approving requests which are meant at depriving the very Zambians that we represent us as members of parliament. Chair, I would propose that we just make it, we would decide as a committee the way forward, and in the interest of progress, let's tackle the subsequent questions, Chair. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Daka. PS, I'm struggling to deal with people who can't give me answers, and also intentionally. As a committee, we are struggling with that aspect, and it's very sad that people can act in such a fashion and manner. We only have got one country, which is this country we are in here. And government has got continuous, it's a going concern, perpetual succession, and people who were there should tell us what transpired, because we don't want these vices to continue. And if people are not giving us what we require, example should be set so that The people from legal fraternity, they say there should be precedents and people shouldn't behave like that going forward, because if people are left just to go scot-free, then everyone will think it's a maize field. Everyone should come there and harvest and take whatever they need to take. But we are here for a serious business, and like the vice chair said, we are here. Parliament has adjourned, but we are here. We are seriously here to ensure that there is accountability, and our people get the medicines, the equipment, the medical, the health attention they need. Is a given. That's why this ministry is funded and well funded, because of these aspects. But if people who are in charge, they can have a laissez-faire attitude of just doing things like it's Christmas. It's not supposed to be like that. Honorable members, we proceed to, is it TFM? We start now with TFM. And PS, the issue of Abdulaziz is not conclusive. Your issue of infrastructure is not conclusive. But we'll proceed for the sake of time. We'll proceed, honorable colleagues, to this contract. Honorable Mukumbi, you can proceed.
Yes, Chair. In our last engagement with the controlling officer, there were indications that this particular contract was terminated or in the process of termination. I just want the controlling officer to confirm whether this contract was truly terminated or it's still very, very active. Because we've now noted that there are claims being made. But in our last engagement, we saw quite a number of letters, even those from the Attorney General and all that, to that effect. Chair, I submit.
Thank you. Any other question? PS, there's that question from Honorable Mukumbi. For me, I just want to see the letter of termination, the actual letter of termination. I think that's what I would like to see and have sight of it. PS, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and thank you, Honorable Mukumbi, for that question. There are two letters pertaining to the issue of termination on this contract. The first one was issued on the 24th of June 2022, indicating or giving intention to terminate to TFM. And finally, a letter indicating termination was issued, let me make reference to be very specific, earlier this month. Today is what? Today is 22. It was issued this month. Let me just look for the particular letter so that I don't mislead the House on the exact date. The letter of termination was signed by myself as controlling officer, and I just want to be very sure which date this month. Termination of contract. Contract for proposed. Chair, I signed the letter of termination, but I'll revert to you, Chair, with the exact date of my letter. Yes.
PS,
25th November.
Is it attached?
25th November, yes, it is attached. 25th November 2022. Yes, 25th November 2022. The letter is attached with me.
Yes, Honorable Wamnima.
Chair, just for some guidance, could we be advised which appendix the termination letter is on? Which is appendix what?
PS, you can advise us on which appendix?
Chair, it's possible that this letter was not attached to the previous documents, but I've got.
Please, you can just pass it to here. You can proceed with your answers, PS.
So the letter of termination was issued on the 25th of November. Time has passed so quickly, they don't even realize that it's already a month since, but it's 25th of November 2022. To the chairman of TFM, South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Nkumbi, follow-up question, you can proceed.
Has this letter been responded to by TFM? Why I'm asking, Chair, is on the 4th of October, TFM was following up from your ministry on the payments of $24.2 million kwacha, $million. And again, if you go back to June, TFM had issued an invoice to yourselves in the amounts of 4.5 million. I think for design fees and for Choma and Kabwe. So where are we? If this contract has been terminated, will this government still pay that invoice of 4.5 million for Choma and Kabwe designs? Chair, I submit.
Thank you. Before I proceed, let me have the DG, let me have the colleagues from ZPPA to just take seats. Mr. Wamulume, the next person, you can excuse us. They can have the DG there from ZPPA. The Chief Procurement Officer, we can sit there. I just want the DG maybe with your second. You can sit there, DG, where the black chair. PS, while the DG is settling down, there's a follow-up question from Honorable Mukumbi. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Mukumbi. Yes, on 4th of October, I should confirm that there was a letter from TFM to the Minister of Health presenting claims towards advance payment towards the contract that was assumed to have been signed on the 4th of June 2022. And this letter was in response to and ignored the letter of 26th of June that was presented to TFM by the Minister of Health indicating intentions to terminate the contract. So what it is that TFM went ahead despite having received the letter of intention to terminate the contract. They disregarded that letter, stating that they did not respect the contents of that letter, and instead decided that they would proceed with the contract anyway. As a result, they issued that letter on the 4th of October demanding advance payment or claims for the work done that far. The next question was, why haven't we paid the claims? We said that there was no claims to pay for because contrary to their claims, TFM did not start any work for which they made the claims for advance payment. This is partly because I did mention in my last submission that there was no site that was issued for TFM for them to commence their work on the contract for which they are requesting for both the advance payment and the completion certificate. In fact, that claim contained claims for advance payment and completion of a certificate up to where they presume they will have completed their works. But we say that there's no claim to pay for because we never handed a site on which they could execute their work. Was there a follow-up to the letter of 25th of November 2022 announcing termination? Yes, there was, through their lawyer. indicated that they would take a legal recourse towards our letter indicating termination of contracts, and also towards our not fulfilling what they think was our contractual obligation of paying them advance payment and completion certificate number 1.
Thank you, PS. PS, I'm struggling to understand some of these things. There's a letter in your submission which was written on the 29th of June 2022 by TFM. This was for the proposed construction and equipping of the aforesaid hospital. Now, they were, please find attached invoice number IN001 for the detailed design fees for Choma and Kabwe to the value of $4.5 million. It was sent, it was written on 29 June. It was stamped PS's office October 5th, 2022. June, July, August, September, October. That's when it was now received and stamped. There's a date stamp, honorable colleagues here, from the PS's office. I'm trying to understand. A claim for the design. Were they, is there a site handover? How do they, did they visit any particular site for them to come up with this detailed design? Maybe that's a question. Honorable Wamnyima.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just would like to understand from the controlling officer the claim that TFM is making of advance payment is being informed by what? Maybe the controlling officer can help this committee in explaining the activities of TFM prior to termination of contract. What has TFM done other than come here and sightseeing? Maybe we need to understand what activities towards fulfillment or consideration of the contract. What has TFM done before the letter of termination and between the day the contract was signed and the letter of termination? In between, what has TFM done with regards to this? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Maybe PS, you can proceed with those questions. Then now we'll come to the other questions.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I reiterate that the contract presumably was signed on the 4th of May, and thereafter, according to the contract terms, it would have been expected that TFM should have presented a performance bond within 4 weeks. By the time that we are issuing a letter of intention to terminate the contract on the 24th of June, which was 5.5 weeks later, 7.5 weeks later, there was no performance bond, and subsequently there has not been any formal engagement, official engagement with TFM management and the Ministry of Health to discuss the contracts and I present a site to TFM where the project would get started. So specifically to answer the question, there's nothing much that has been done, if at all, between our ministry and TFM towards commencement of the contract. So all that has happened is exchange of letters to terminate the contract from 29th up to now. I submit.
PS, my question has not been answered. Was THM or TFM taken to any site? They're mentioning Choma and Kabwe. Have they been taken to any site? Have we handed over any site to them? If they had any site to go to and say, this is your site we are going to construct, or we take the survey diagrams and we are designing something, this will sit here. because they're saying detailed design. Maybe also the Department of Infrastructure. Do you have any detailed design which has been submitted by TFM to that effect?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that question. Yes, as controlling officer, I have no information to any site having given over, at least after the contract. Probably the infrastructure department could help before the events, before the contracts and any site isolation, because as controlling officer, I have no idea of any site that was even provided or discussed for as a possible site for this project. Chair, with your permission, I would ask my infrastructure department to shed more light on that.
Thank you, PS. Honorable colleagues, before we proceed, I think we might as well discharge the former PS. Are we making any good use of him? Because he's, I think, alluded to the fact that he was not there. Honorable members, there's that question. I need some reaction to that effect. Honorable Lumai.
Chair, you are right, especially that there's a precedence. In the morning, we asked the former PS who was not there to take leave. So you're in the right direction, Chair. I support.
Thank you. Yes, PS, you can proceed.
Probably on this particular contract, Chair, it may be useful.
Okay.
This is the TFM, not the King Salman, where he was not there.
Okay.
You may recall that the history of this project started, I think, when he was in the office, and part of his documents bear his name. He might be able to provide some useful information.
Thank you, PS. We appreciate for that. Infrastructure, are you able to authenticate if there's some detailed design to that effect? Yes, Honorable Amnima.
Chair, I think the controlling officer has partly answered my question, which I'm grateful. But I don't understand. When TFM came to Zambia after signing the contract, they came to do what? What did they come for? I think we need to understand their trip to Zambia. It was for what? Maybe this could justify these claims they're making of Choma and Kabwe, because the trip was there in the submissions. Somewhere I read about they came here. But they came to do what? Because if they came and didn't engage the ministry, they came to visit Zambia as a tourist site. So maybe we could be helped with the infrastructure. What was the activities of TFM when they came here?
Thank you. Physical, is it director planning and infrastructure or infrastructure physical planning? Maybe you can help us. Do you have any detailed what is this design from TFM? Mr. Jason, you can sit where a procurement, Madam Chief Procurement Officer can excuse. Honorable Mfarad, you can proceed while
they are sitting. I was trying to locate the contract, TFM contract. I don't know where I'm failing to. Is it attached here?
The contract, I don't know. Auditor General, maybe check, but there's a contract there. Just tell us, Acting Director, Physical Planning, do you have any detailed design from TFM to that effect for the aforesaid isolation, whatever they call them, hospitals or whatever? Yes.
Do we have the contract for TFM attached on any of these documents? If it's not, I just wanted to understand one thing. The termination of the contract is based on GCC 556.4, which is convenience.
Yes.
Maybe the controlling officer should be able to tell us whether using GCC 56.4 takes away the ministry from paying the contractor or abrogating or doing away with this contract. Does that take it away, according to the provision they have used to terminate, does that take away the issue of the contractor making a claim. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, just take that question into consideration before you come in. Acting Director, Physical Planning, you can answer if you have detailed design from the aforesaid contractor, TFM. You can proceed.
Through the chair and PS, I think I agree with PS's position that we didn't have any detailed designs from TFM. And what they came to do in the country, I think I'm not competent to answer that question.
Yes, Honorable Mnyima.
Who then is competent to answer? Through you, Chair, who is competent to answer what TFM came to do in this country? Because this termination, that's why they're making these claims. These claims they're making here. Because if the committee chair needs to be informed. If they came here and someone from the ministry was showing them sites, they'll claim. They have to claim. So what we want to know is that what were they doing? Who were they interfacing with when they came here? It's just a simple question. Maybe if you say that they were just passing through the country, we can understand. But to say you're not competent, but you know they came here and there's that submission, we want to know what were their activities when they came here.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, even before we proceed, I think my propose is that as and when the former PS Magwende is available, he comes, let this representative of TFM or TFM come, because we are just at sea. There is no answer. Let them come and speak for themselves, and let the ministry speak also for themselves, especially those who are there, because we will still be just struggling here. That is my proposal to this committee. But before we proceed, I just want to direct the ZPPA to ask you one question, because these things are emanating from those authorities. Before you were director ZPPA, there was Christopher Chichondi. On the 30th of September 2020, there was a request for no objection to direct bid South African establishment of 150 and 375 bed fabricated COVID-19 hospitals in Zambia. And the person who was director then said that the board of directors of Zambia ZPPA at its meeting reviewed your request and was unable to grant you a no objection to direct bid TFM South Africa to establish the aforesaid, as there was no compelling justification to that effect. This is his letter, signed Christopher, Director General, which I hope you have. 30 days after, the same ministry wrote to you, and here is your letter. Reference is made to your letter dated 13th October regarding the above mentioned caption. The authority reviewed your request and has no objection to your intention to direct bid TFM of South Africa for establishment of the aforesaid. Kindly be advised that no objection is for the use of this direct bidding method of procurement and is valid for the specific request only. You are required to conduct the procurement in accordance with all other requirements of Public Procurement Act number 12 of 2008 and provide a detailed report to the authority on procurement proceedings. The report should also include the market price for establishment of 150 and 375 bed fabricated COVID-19 hospital in Zambia, minutes of negotiation that to be held with the supplier, and any other information outlined on how the ministry would have attained value for money. DG, our question from this honorable committee: how did within a month this change? There was a position from the previous DG, and then you gave a no objection. However, even when you gave this, you highlighted things which needed to be provided by the ministry. Price negotiation, price what was that provided to that effect by the ministry? How they proceeded to contract the aforesaid contractor, who is the TFM? That is our question. You can start with the change in authority and then proceed with the other question. You can proceed, DG.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members of Parliament. Indeed, the letter dated 30th September did indicate that the authority was not given because of there was no compelling justification. If you read in paragraph 2.
Please speak through the microphone, DG.
I'm speaking through the microphone.
Okay.
Oh.
Just move it a bit.
Okay. Thank you.
So that it can, yes,
sorry.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
The letter dated 30th September, which you have before you, does indicate in paragraph 2 that this was rejected because there were no compelling justification. Then when we come to the letter dated 30th October, there was, I would say maybe a subjection to say the no objection is for the use of direct bidding is valid for this request only. That is also in paragraph 3. You are required to conduct the procurement in accordance with the requirements of the Public Procurement Act and provide a detailed report to the authority on the procurement proceedings. And because you are looking at the value which was so high, and we even further told them to negotiate so that if it's not within market price, then they can negotiate. But to answer your question, Chair and honorable members, we told them that they should give us a detailed report. And then even further, in the last paragraph, it says the requested information should be submitted to the authority soon after the award of contract, and they have not done that.
Thank you, DG. Maybe my follow-up question is, what compelling reason did they provide to that effect for you to change the decision and to proceed with no objection? You can proceed. Honorable Mkosa, then Honorable Amnyima.
Chair, to ask the Director General, I would like to find out from the granting of a no objection that you did. Do you think you did the right thing? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Amnyima.
Chair, mine is a very serious question for the controlling officer. I do know that he's made submission. This TFM contract that I have here on securities, the TFM did not provide a performance bond within the stipulated time, which is 14 days, according to section 49.1 of the contract. And this is a basis that they could have terminated the contract, because if you look at section 56.1, it says the employer or the contractor may terminate the contract if the other party causes a fundamental breach of the contract. So TFM was in fundamental breach by failing to give securities within 14 days. They took over 7 weeks. Now my question is, why is the contract not being terminated on that basis? Instead, the contract is being terminated for convenience. Why did the ministry allow TFM to have a valid contract even without giving security bonds? I submit.
Thank you. DG, you can proceed with my question and Honorable Mkosa's question. Then I think Honorable Amnyima's question will go back to the PS. You can proceed, DG.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. The compelling reasons that were given in the letter dated 13th October, I don't know whether you have it, from the controlling officer then, Ms. Kakuvelwa C. Mulalelo.
We don't have the letter. AG, do you have the letter? If you don't have the letter, you can. If you have the letter, DG, you can pass it to Auditor General. You can proceed. Is that the letter from the PS? Auditor General can proceed and read the letter.
Thank you, Chair. References resubmission to direct. I think it's supposed to read to direct bid TFM. It just says resubmission to direct TFM, South Africa, for the establishment of 150 and 375 bed prefabricated COVID-19 hospitals in Zambia. Reference is made to your letter dated 30th September 2020. We note the guidance contained therein and wish to resubmit accordingly as follows. Zambia recorded its first case of the new coronavirus outbreak of 2019 on 18th March 2020. Zambia was forced to respond rapidly to the outbreak, in so doing changing the use of the existing hospitals in order to convert into isolation facilities. The lack of dedicated isolation facilities has affected service delivery. As we continue to strengthen our COVID preparedness and response capabilities, there is need, I think it's supposed to be, to establish dedicated isolation facilities in strategic areas. The minimum time frame for establishment of a 150 to 375 health facility using the conventional method of construction is 3 to 4 years. As per our letter to your office dated 14th September 2020, TFM have submitted a proposal to establish 150 and 375 bed COVID-19 hospitals using a prefabricated system. The prefabricated system adopts a power profile building system for the hospital structures, which in accordance with the proposal received will shorten the construction period, thus enabling fast erection of the buildings. This shall enable the establishment of facilities inclusive of equipment in strategic areas of the country as part of the COVID-19 response. The Treasury has granted authority that we proceed to engage the contractor in line with the necessary legal and administrative framework for this type of project. See attached letter dated 11th September 2020. Chair, I submit. Oh, sorry. In view of the emergency response and in line with Section 32 of the Public Procurement Act of 12 of 208, we request that we proceed to direct bid TFM of South Africa to establish prefabricated hospitals in various parts of the country on a turnkey basis, as other methods of procurement may not be as enabling as we continue to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. I submit for your approval that we proceed to single source. I await your most valued response. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, this is a letter which was written to the DG on 13th of October. And that was after. I would love to see the earlier letter. I would love to see the earlier letter, the one before September, what it was saying and what became compelling. Because DG, for us as a committee, we don't see anything compelling in this letter. It's just a justification, which we are seeing. And as usual, people want to justify things. So for me, again, you've also alluded to the fact that, secondly, you guided them. And procurement, you were guided to that effect. Let me have the chief procurement seat where Director of Finance, former Director of Finance, you can just move a bit. Then let me have chief procurement officer who signed on this. If you were guided by Director General from ZPP what to provide, all those price, negotiations and everything, why didn't you provide the aforesaid information to the DG? Notwithstanding DG that we still don't admit this letter as compelling evidence. I don't think so. Honorable members, unless there's a contract. Is this compelling? I don't think this is compelling to me. Yes, Honorable Mkosa.
Chair, I want to ask the DG again. DG, according to you, looking at that letter that our representative from the Office of the Auditor General is just from reading, you found this procurement to be compelling and urgent. Now, from the time you granted a no objection, which was October 2020, the contract was only signed in, I think this is around May 2022. Do you still think that the urgency that you saw then, in reality and in substance, did really exist? Thank you, Chair. That's a very simple question that needs a very simple answer.
Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. Mine also goes to the DG. I would want to find out the duration of this no objection. How long does it remain in effect from the time of being issued? Because the time frame between when the no objection was granted and the time when actually they were proceeding with this procurement seemed to be a longer period of time that passed. So how long, is there any specific period? Maybe basically let's look at the validity. How long is the validity of this no objection that you issue out? To be specific, under this very contract or this very assignment we are discussing, how long was the validity? I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. DG, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the committee to the same letter dated 13th September. Sorry, 17th September. Sorry, 2022. Okay, this is 14. Let me just. No, the one I referred to, 17th.
We have the one for 13th written by PSC.
Okay, 13th October, Chair, sorry.
Yes.
I have the other letter dated 14th September. I don't know whether the honorable members have
We
it.
don't have that one as well.
Okay, maybe I can give it to the auditor to read.
Yeah, Auditor General, maybe you have you can get the letter and the one before the. Can I see that later?
Thank you, Chair. The letter is from Ministry of Health. It's dated 14th September 2020. Reference, request for no objection to direct bid TFM South Africa for the establishment of 150 and 375 bed prefabricated COVID-19 hospitals in Zambia. Reference is made to the above subject matter. Authority is being requested to single source TFM of South Africa to establish prefabricated hospitals in various parts of the country on a turnkey basis. This follows approval from the Treasury that we proceed to engage the contractor in line with the necessary legal and administrative framework for this type of project. You may wish to note that TFM have submitted a proposal to establish 150 and 375 bed COVID-19 hospitals using a prefabricated system. The prefabricated system adopts a power profile building system for the hospital structure, which in accordance with the proposal received will shorten the construction period, thus enabling fast erection of the buildings. This shall enable the establishment of facilities in strategic areas of the country as part of the COVID-19 response. The estimated cost of the hospitals as follows. The 150 bed by 5 at $11.7 million each, total $58.6 million. 375 beds, 2 in number, at 20.1 million each, total $40.2 million. We await your valued response. I submit, Chair.
Yes, DG, you can proceed with your submission. The letter has been read.
Thank you, Chair. When you look at this first letter dated 14th September 2020, you will see that they just said in the first paragraph they are saying, maybe let me read the second line. This follows approval from the Treasury, Ministry of Finance, that we proceed to engage the contractor in line with the necessary legal and administrative framework for this type of project. So when it comes to the legal framework, they needed to follow the procurement law, and their application was premised on Section 32(2) of our then Public Procurement Act 2008, which states that direct bidding may be used where A, the goods or works or non-consulting services are only available from a single source and no reasonable alternative or substitute exists. B, due to an emergency, there is urgent need for the goods, works or non-consulting services, making it impractical to use other methods of procurement because of the time involved in using those methods. C, additional goods, works or non-consulting services must be procured from the same source because of the need for compatibility, standardization, or continuity. D, an existing contract could be extended for additional goods, works, or non-consulting services of a similar nature, and no advantage could be obtained by further competition. And lastly, the estimated value of goods, works, or non-consulting services does not exceed the prescribed threshold. In the case of, in the next letter, dated 13th October, Chair and the honorable members, you will see that in section, paragraph 3, they are saying, as we continue to strengthen our COVID-19 preparedness and response capabilities, there is need to establish dedicated isolation facilities in strategic areas. The minimum time frame for establishment of a 150 to 375 health facility using the conventional method of construction is 3 to 4 years. Then further, they are saying, they are alluding to the same letter of 14th September. They are saying, as per our letter to your office dated 14th September 2020, TFM have submitted a proposal to establish the 150 and 375 bed COVID-19 hospitals using a prefabricated system. The prefabricated system adopts a power profile, which was also in this in the second paragraph of the first letter dated 14th September. But then they also went ahead and said it will shorten the construction period, thus enabling fast erection of the buildings. This shall enable the establishment of facilities inclusive of equipment in strategic areas of the country as part of COVID-19 response. And then they went.
Yes, Honorable Amnyama.
Chair, I think we are at a stage where we have consensus that there was nothing compelling. So I think we keep going back and forth. There was nothing compelling for this, for the no objection. So I don't see why we can keep on reading this. This contract was a scandal. So, Chair, I beg that some of the questions we've asked be answered. I asked one to the controlling officer, and so that we can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, DG. I think we do. You are guided. Honorable Daka.
Chair, I asked a very important question. Going by the happening of this contract, they started in 2020. The execution was in 2022. So I asked a very important question. What is the validity period for the no objection that she granted? the committee would want to know. Because over the reasons whether there was justification or not, there's a collective responsibility here that we don't see it compelling. Regardless of the fact that it was granted, but we would want as well to know what was the validity, what is the validity period of this no objection. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. DG, you can quickly answer that. Then PS, you can proceed to answer Honorable Wamnima's question. Thank you. DG, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to address the issue of because I was told that were there compelling reasons. So I was trying to read the one on the emergency which they mentioned in the last paragraph before. For us, that was the compelling reason because direct bidding, there was an emergency, and then they wanted to have facilities for isolation.
No, DG, we do understand that, but if you look at even COVID, the time it was now going down, and we're now getting more conversant. That's why I think we are finding it difficult to understand the no objection. Maybe we can proceed and answer Honorable Daka's question, then I want PS to come in so that we quickly proceed on the validity of the no objection. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. In the letter dated 30th October, you see that it says, third paragraph, kindly be advised that no objection is for the use of direct bidding method of procurement is valid for this specific request only. So it was only for the TFM.
For that specific procurement only for that. So it should be, it's got no end just for TFM, but for only TFM. That's not other. Yes.
Just to help the DG, it's valid in perpetuity for that contract until it is revoked. There's nothing that it can. Once it's given based on that,
yeah,
that's the way it is.
Thank you, DG. PS, you can proceed with Honorable Wamnima's question.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Wamnima, for that question. It's about why the termination of contracts. I want to refresh again very quickly that the contracts under TFM, first of all, has been declared by the ministry as a contract not in the best interest of the people of Zambia. And in the letter of intention to terminate a contract on the 26th of June, 24th of June, it was first of all indicated that the primary reason for termination was one, policy change. Policy change for two reasons. That is, policy change because of new government and the new direction on infrastructure. I did mention earlier, Chair, that the new government policy was to construct infrastructure based on the availability of funds. At the time that this project was being conceived, there was no budget line for 2022 for supporting this project. The second policy change is policy change in the treatment of COVID. At the time that we are terminating the contract, the management or treatment of COVID had changed. Treatment of COVID was no longer isolation in hospitals. Treatment for COVID till now, that's a policy management change from the clinical standpoint, that we no longer are going to manage COVID by isolation in hospital spaces. And this means that if we had proceeded with this contract, it was going to be a waste of people's money. These infrastructure are going to stand as white elephants, like we still have other hospitals that were started and still not completed by now, and still figuring out on what we are going to do with them. So that was the first big reason that was issued in the letter for termination of the contract. The second, of course, was the duration that it has taken from the time that this idea was conceived up to today and now. That there's been so much time lapse that, of course, the project is no longer valid. The project is no longer worthwhile for the people of Zambia. And in that score, we did realize, we started to understand the lack of credibility on the part of TFM towards this contract, because let's assume that the contract was signed on the 4th of May and it was stated in the contract that a performance bond needed to have been issued. That was never done. We started to doubt the credibility of the organization called TFM, knowing that so much money of the people's money was going to be put in this project. We had to quickly give a stop to this, lest we lost the money, purely on account that TFM demonstrated a fundamental breach to the contract. Just to answer Honorable Wamnima's concern, that was at the back of our mind when we were terminating the contract, that we are not going to get value for money. We are not very sure where this money by TFM was going to come from, and TFM didn't show credibility. I did mention that till now, TFM has no footprint in Zambia, and there's nowhere I can go today and point that this is the office for TFM. And yet we're talking about $100 million of people's money to be vested or trusted into this organization called TFM, which, save for a better term for me, is only a briefcase construction firm. Chair, even if you ask me to bring TFM tomorrow, I will struggle to get them to come because I do not know where they're found. But I'm told that they are somewhere in South Africa. Yet this is the country we're trying to entrust in a project with this such huge amount of money for. So there are a lot of indications that made us as a ministry that we are risking people's money, and we needed to terminate this contract. So basically, to answer Honorable Mnima's question, one among the many other reasons that probably we haven't tabulated, which we are able to present to TFM if we get an opportunity to meet with them, either here or anywhere, would be that there was fundamental breach of contract by their failure to demonstrate to us that they could perform this contract by submitting performance bonds. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Melisiana. Then, okay, let Honorable Melisiana go, then Honorable Amnyuma, Honorable Mkosando, Honorable Daka, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling officer, given all the negative reasons that you have tabulated against TFM, you still went ahead to sign a contract with the firm. I'm just wondering, was there any due diligence taken? My second question is, has the government of Zambia paid any money to TFM so far? And if money has been paid, for what and how much has been paid? I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Amnyuma, can do a follow-up question?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank the PS most sincerely for his submission. However, it still does not answer the question as to why the ministry did not terminate the contract of TFM after TFM made the first breach of not honoring securities within 14 days. Why did the ministry wait until November? And PS, the reason why I'm asking this question is that TFM has been invoicing. They've been invoicing, so we would have avoided. This will constitute to go into a legal suit, definitely, most definitely, because TFM has been invoicing. From 5th October, they invoiced. They are saying they did geographical sightseeing. So
detailed design.
Yes. So, Chair, I want to know why wasn't this contract terminated when TFM breached it? They breached the contract. I understand that the minister agrees that the controlling officer agrees that they did not show sincerity. But what I'm trying to drive to, Honorable Chairperson, is that TFM has made claims of substantial amounts within the valid period of the contract. And now the ministry is terminating in November, when TFM has been invoicing July, they invoiced October, they invoiced. So we want to know, what will the ministry do about these? And we don't know whether they are just, TFM is just hallucinating about these invoices, because the controlling officer said that he's not aware of what they're invoicing about. So it's a bit, so that's my question. I hope they have not loaded the controlling officer.
Thank you, Honorable Amnima. Just kindly withdraw the word hallucinating.
For TFM?
Yes, for TFM.
Okay, no. We don't know whether TFM is speculating. Speculating because they are saying they did this, and the ministry is not aware of what they did. So what is this they are claiming?
Thank you. I think, if you remember, I alluded to the same fact that you had an invoice written. It was dated on 29 June. And it was received by your office on 5th October, so many months. And I think what the committee is struggling to understand is the fact that you have no legal relations with TFM as we speak, but we are wondering how they've been generating all these things, detailed design. When you are invoicing for a detailed design, there should be designs given to the client. These are my designs. Any corrections, they sit with physical planning. No, remove this. We want this to sit here, and then you plan it. Then you agree. Then eventually it's submitted, because you're invoicing $4.5 million for detailed design. Where are the designs? The ministry hasn't even got the designs. So these are some of the things we are failing to understand to that effect. Honorable Mkosa, you can come in. I just wanted to amplify on Honorable Wamnyima's question. Honorable Mkosa, you can come in, then Honorable Daka. Then we need to make progress, honorable members. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling officer, I do appreciate that the contract was terminated on 22nd November. 25th. Okay. Thank you for the correction. Now, I would like to find out from you, because I take note that the contract was awarded by the MPC. Not so. So now, to cancel the contract, I am meant to believe that the MPC should get involved. So I would like to find out from you where you derived the authority from to cancel this contract. If there was any committee, such as the MPC committee, if it sat to deliberate and make a resolution that this contract should be terminated. The reason I'm asking this is to avoid litigation and weakness on the part of the government in an event of litigation. The second issue, Mr. Chairman, is to the Director General ZPPA. Director General, I think you will appreciate that the reason why we are here today, we are discussing this, it's because of you, your institution, because of the decision that they made. Your institution has a tendency of giving no objection to spending agencies and ministries where they are not supposed to, where you are not supposed to give, where there are no reasons whatsoever. Many of the ministries that have been coming to appear before this committee, usually there are issues to do with ZPPA granted no objection without justifiable reasons. Now, I know you do know that, but maybe just to remind you, your department or your agency, it is meant to promote and ensure that there is transparency and accountability, and to ensure that we protect the money that is meant for the citizens of this country. But what has been happening is contrary to its what people expect of your institutions, your agents. Okay? You should not be seen to override the systems that have been put in this country, because this is what has been happening. So my advice to you, ensure that you people at ZPPA change. Look, whatever you are reading there, we are familiar with what the ZPPA Act says, because we make the laws. So we are familiar. But not to say that we agree with your decisions. No, we don't. In this particular case, there was no urgency. That's why I asked you. You granted that there should be no objection on the basis that it was an emergency. There was an emergency. If there was an emergency and you granted no objection in October 2020, why should it take a year and 8 months? I don't know if it's 6 months. 2 years. And what you were granting a no objection to procure has not been procured, and nothing has happened as a result of that emergency. So you need to change as an agency, because we don't want you to be promoting audit queries. You have promoted a lot of audit queries that we are dealing with now. This year, the audit queries we have been dealing with, a lot of them are as a result of your agents not having done the right thing. So it's not a question, it's an advice to you that you need to change as an agency. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Daka, you can proceed.
Chair, thank you very much. Mine goes to the controlling officer. The committee is left to wonder now, when we look at your correspondence, the fundamental breach was in 2020. The fundamental breach was in May, when the contractor failed to furnish you with the securities. At that particular point of time, you saw it normal. There was no problem at all. But come 2022, after the contract was signed, come up to 2022 November, how long is it? Yeah, in November, you come and cite a very weak ground of termination, mutual consent. And yet, before the committee here, you are even alluding to the, you are trying to connect the termination to several grounds, which are very valid and firm. The committee would want to appreciate, why did you take you so long, and only to come and cite a very weak ground of terminating the contract, which will cost government a lot of money, because in between the signing of a contract and the termination, the contractor is claiming that he executed works, that of design, which I don't think even the ministry has. Of course, there's a way to go around it. You may request for the same designs, but still more, they will generate them, and I'm sure they are ready for you. So now, would want to appreciate the efficiency in your ministry. Who was controlling officer? Who want to know? Who is it that was managing this contract? Who was the project manager for this particular contract from the time it was signed up to the time of termination? Because we want to appreciate project management skills in your ministry. Because there are officers who are behind this mess. Would want to know. And this mess will cost government a lot of money. Out of nothing. Totally nothing, Chairperson. So, please, controlling officer, I would like to find out why you cited very weak grounds of termination, mutual consent. So basically, we have to come up with a final account and pay whatsoever works were done prior to the cancellation of, prior to the termination of this contract. But had you terminated at the point at which he fundamentally breached this contract by failing to furnish the government couldn't have spent anything. Look at where we are now, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Chair. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Daka. PS, you can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think a lot of questions that have been raised here speak a lot to what I had said at the start about the nature of the contractor. I did first of all say that briefcase businessman, and true to the word, that's what this contractor is. No fixed abode in Zambia, and that's true again. There's a lot of doubts. There's a lot of aspersions that's been cast upon the credibility of this contractor. Let's talk about the signing of the contract itself on the 4th of May. I did mention in my earlier submission, Chair, before your committee, that the way this contract was signed was in a very kind of dubious style, that the contract signing was sneaked into the Ministry of Health. Signing a contract for government to the tune of 100 million calls for a big ceremony. The minister, PS, many directors coming, cameras, and showing to the people of Zambia this is what we are committing their money to. That didn't happen. The contractor sneaked, and I use that word, sneaked into the ministry and coerced or connived with 1 or 2 officers, and Madam Juliet is a signatory to that again. That the ceremony was held, she did say last time, in the presence of 4 people. 4 people, yes. The 2 signatories and the 2 witnesses. That is unprecedented, and it doesn't happen in government system. So that casts into aspiration the credibility of the contractor in a lot of ways, because the contractor, to start with, notwithstanding our own fault on our part as ministry, the contractor should have insisted that this was a high-profile event to get as many witnesses as observers as possible. No, the contractor didn't do that. He was comfortable with having the signatures, pen placed on paper quietly, and he sneaked out of the ministry and held that document as his prized possession. And then he disappeared, went away. He was supposed to submit bonds within 14 days. He didn't do that. And we, other members of the ministry, together with these directors, came to hear about the signing of this contract much later, specifically on the 16th of June. Signed on the 4th of May, but 16th of June, that's when this signing of the contract came to be announced. And we started asking ourselves, who signed? Me, I said no, I didn't. Directors said no, till it went to very high levels to ask questions as to who signed this contract and why, and for such a big amount of money. That's when everything came out to the fore, and a lot of discussions started. Chair, you would see that it's from there that whoever signed this contract, who is my previous colleague, had to write a letter to notify TFM about the intention to terminate, because it was soon understood that no, this was wrong, and the contract should not have been signed in that fashion. So on the 26th of June, a letter was issued to TFM. Even by that point, 26th of June, there was no performance bond available or having been submitted as is per contract requirement to the Department of Procurement. There was no bond. So you can see again, that shows how this was not a credible contractor. But having realized that they've done things wrongly and badly, it's from there, after receiving this letter, that they start running around to make good of the bad that they've done, to try to put the performance contract bond in place in retrospect or in reverse order, if we may put it that way. You can see that by that time now we got to understand that a wrong thing is trying to be made right. To answer Honorable Amnima's question, that's why instead of terminating the contract much earlier, the invoice was issued on the 30th of October. After they had using their means, I repeat, this is a very I'm trying to find the right words without the offense, offending the integrity of this House, to describe the contractor, that they went all the way to achieve what they wanted, to make good so that they'll be able to come back and issue a demand for advance payment. So you can see that till from the time they received the letter till October, they were going everywhere, including to the bank, to go and fix a performance contract bond, which was not there, so that quickly they would come and legitimize the wrong contract and come and issue an advance payment claim. By that time, of course, Chair, we had made a decision as a ministry with support from the entire leadership of the ministry, the policy head, that this contract should not be allowed. It would be a risk to the money for the people of Zambia, and it was not done in accordance with a normal and legitimate contract. Just to re-emphasize that we had no idea that, in fact, there was a bond. The bond was not issued. Up to today, probably I shouldn't say this, but the bond was issued in reverse, and just very soon before this October invoice was issued. About the termination, yes, I did say that I terminated, but I didn't terminate it as myself and me. We followed all the procedure. We called for the Ministerial Procurement Committee, which I chaired, and we went through all the normal processes and procedures of termination of the contract as is guided by the ZPPA Act. So when I said I terminated, it's a termination that was reinforced by the Ministerial Procurement Committee. Why, regarding the efficiency of the ministry, where do I? About the project manager, yes. Any normal project like Honorable Dark has guided ought to have a project manager. Up to this time, this project does not have a project manager because there was not a time where we sat to discuss the project as a ministry, to prepare for the commencement of the project, to hand over the site. So it's a very dubious project, I should say. It's a very dubious project that has no credence whatsoever to call it a project or a contract. So there's no project manager, there's no site given or identified for construction of or for the delivery of this project, and this is where we are. So what we have is a claim by the contractor that we honored this project.
Yes, Honorable Daka.
In his submission, the controlling officer's submission, it's indicated that TFM was given site possession in Kawe and Choma. And as such, he's citing these very two sites in terms of the works that he has done so far. And the other issue, Chair, I'm sure maybe controlling officer, you are not aware. In your report here, there's a submission of a performance guarantee dated 30th June 2022. And in between May and 30th June, there's no correspondence whatsoever that would tend to justify that there was a fundamental breach. That's why I asked the question to do with project management. And even on the other contracts that we discussed earlier, the committee questioned the project management skills in your ministry. And the chair, again, as a follow-up, the controlling officer is not coming out very clear on issues to do with whether government has ever paid anything or not, the question which was raised from the other members of parliament, my colleagues. And furthermore, the controlling officer was requested to indicate whether a due diligence was conducted, of which nothing has come from him, Chair. We are not getting direct responses from the questions that we are asking, Chair. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Sabah. Okay, you can ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. Mine, I just want to set the record straight. Considering the submission from the PS, do you have any record where you had a meeting in relation to this project where you, the two PSs sat, the minister and other directors in the ministry, for the people who signed the contract to have the motivation for them to go ahead and sign the contract? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I remind again that the contract is presumed to have been signed on the 4th of May. And after the signing of the contract, ordinarily that's when you expect that discussions and engagements pertaining to the execution of the contract would be started. That the site would be given. As far as I can remember, no site was given for the commencement of this project. And unless the site was given before the signing of the contract. And I would wish that if any member of my infrastructure team would attest to the fact that a site in Choma or Kabwe was given. I have no idea where in Choma or Kabwe where this site would be, and I do not think that any site, such site exists. Any payments? No. We have not made any payments to this project because signed on the 4th of May, came to the fore on the 16th of June. There has not been any meetings, any engagements in the ministry or with the contractor to discuss the commencement of the project. There was no due diligence because ordinarily due diligence will have to be taken on the contractor, and this would include a visit to their offices, to their business premises. Like I mentioned, they have no business premises here in Zambia, and there was not such a visit to the emailing is to the postal address in South Africa, because there was never just such a time where we would discuss this contract after it was signed.
Thank you, PS. Honorable colleagues, I think we have looked at this matter for a long time. I beg that we proceed and take position. I know it's not conclusive. You have a lot of questions, which I also have to that effect, but it won't be conclusive. So we just have to take position and conclude our meeting to that effect, unless there's any burning question which honorable members want to ask before I close. Honorable Amnyema.
Chair, no, I think the controlling officer has exhausted his submission. Of particular concern is that a contract of that magnitude can be sneaked in a ministry. That's at sea, you know. I would just want maybe the controlling officer to give clarity to say, after the contract was signed, how does it move now that it's been signed? That it takes a whole month. Was this contract concealed? And one of the ladies who's a signatory, she's here. So how was this a secret for a month? I don't understand. That one is a special case because this is
it's a spiritual contract.
So maybe the controlling officer again can make us understand what happened to the contract after it was signed. Was it shelved somewhere? Or from what the submissions, the contract has been to Attorney General, it was cleared. So how was it sneaked in? You know, I submit.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm privileged to have Madam Juliet who appended a signature. She's under the Ministry of Procurement. Again, ordinarily when a contract is signed, it's handled by the Ministry or by the Department of Procurement. Probably she could assist to clarify what happened after the documents were signed and where did the document go. Through your Chair.
Thank you. PSC, Madam Chombas failed lamentably to give us any befitting submission before this honorable committee. And I was almost telling her to leave us. So I don't think, honorable members, there will be any submission which I doubt that she will really give us any befitting answers. But with your insistence, Madam Chomba, I can proceed and let's hear you again.
After the contract was signed on the 4th of May, the supplier was given their copy and they were given the letter to submit the performance guarantee and the advance payment guarantee. And they did not do that, and as the PS has explained the events that happened after that. But that's how it went after the signing of the contract. I submit.
Honorable Amnyima. PS, thank you so much for coming again before this honorable committee with your team. I must assure you, PS, that we, as a committee, we are not happy because we haven't gotten befitting answers to that effect. Even by making you to come and reappear, we have not, however, gotten befitting answers. Maybe before I proceed, yes, issues of, is that what Vice Chair want to comment? Yeah, I think on that the position is they just need to be verified. And they need to submit a letter from ZABS for ZABS to indicate that yes, they were consulted and they said they cannot give, look at the standards or provide the necessary information to or they are not in position to carry out such a certification, if I may use that language. So PS, we've labored as a committee. We've labored to get answers and to no avail. It's very, very difficult. So for us, PS, this matter is not conclusive. But however, let me just give guidance that we want a letter from the supplier who's supposed to install equipment, CatMat and Web International, to authenticate that yes, as and when we are done with construction, they will come and install. They should commit to the ministry that they will come and do installation because it was part of the contract. It was our own mistake, but then let them commit. Then the issue of failure to subject oxygen cylinder to testing and inspection, we want ZABS, even in retrospective, to give a letter that they had refused. If you wrote to them, you should have correspondence, you've got reference, and you tell them we had written to you prior and would want that information, not verbal but written to that effect. Then unaccounted for cylinders, Auditor General needs to go and do a verification. That is Chilabombo, the 60 missing cylinders. They will go and do a verification, and that will be brought before the committee. The construction of King Abdulaziz, we have labored and nothing, changing of contracts. We have no answer, PS, and we don't know. Maybe it's a spiritual contract which we are failing to understand, like usually what Honorable Amnyima says. Because how can people, the project manager, if you look at that contract, PS, it's a bad contract. You appoint someone who is the only one who can change the terms and conditions of the contract. I don't know how some of these contracts are cleared anyway. Change of currency. So this you've got your chief procurement officer saying I need to go and look at the minutes. We had wanted those minutes. So even these issues are not conclusive. PS, the issue of TFM, it's a sham because everything is not speaking to each other. The letters, correspondences, there are dates, there's lapse of time. How do you issue an invoice in July and then come and be received in October? Where was it? So we have got all these gaps we are failing to mitigate and understand. And also when we signed and how long it took us to cancel the contract, all bond issues. I don't know why I think we had to even ourselves conduct ourselves in such a manner as clients. So we have all these things which are not tallying. So not conclusive as well. The issue of infrastructure, your officers, PS, let them be on top of things. They cannot bring raw information here as we are not faced with, we are not auditors, we are not, we don't come here to correct things. As we want to, this is your information, you should own it and explain. But if people come here, PS, and are failing to explain, then what do? It's either they are just hostile witnesses, who we can just chase so that we don't see them before this honorable committee. So these are some of the things we've seen today, and I must make mention that we haven't progressed well, and we implore you, PS, even as you go back, that these your officers, they pull up their socks. They need to, that's why they're employed. That's why they've got those titles, director, this, director, that. It's for them to carry out their mandate on behalf of the Zambian people. If they're not competent and they don't want to be in those positions, then let them go home and sit and do something else, because they're conferred with those duties to work for the Zambian people. Just like us, we are here laboring to understand what they are telling us, but they are there. They are on a salary. They get paid from government. Why are they on salary if they can't carry out their duties? I think, PS, there'll be a very strong recommendation following you to ensure that some of these officers, they need to wake up. We cannot continue to lose public resources in such a manner, because we are strained as a country. To that effect, we are trying to do debt restructuring. Then people are misappropriating funds with impunity. They even know the consequences, but they keep signing these legal documents minus with, I don't know what their intention. So this is what we struggled with, PS. However, Honorable, I'm just closing the meeting. You can proceed. Before I close the meeting, you have a chance.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for giving me an opportunity to ask a question to ZPPA. ZPPA, there are a lot of anomalies that arise from your no objection, which is a requirement for some of these people that are involved in procurement. But I see a gap where I'm sitting. I see a gap in procurement, in the sense that I don't know, I would want your comment. What we call witnesses here, permanent witnesses, because here we deal with the accountant, we deal with the auditors, and then we have the Auditor General's office. But the procurement seems to be hanging all over, and the influence on the procurement officer seems not to be thwarted in some way, because the procurement officer seems to answer to the PS, or you answer to the director of finance or any other person. Would it be fit for you to talk about maybe with someone you call procurement general, who sits at a certain level, so that these officers that seem to be answering to everyone or to someone should now answer to someone who is powerful or who is strong enough to say, no, don't proceed in that direction? What is your comment, the PPA Director General? Thank you.
Thank you. I was just closing the meeting. ZPPA, we have a chance to respond, then I can wind up the meeting.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament. Currently, the Act says that the head of procurement should report to the controlling officer, who is the PS or Chief Executive Officer, if it's a statutory body or any state-owned enterprise. And the reason is, they do strategic work. So the Act allows that, and whenever we are doing compliance, when we see that that gap is missing, we always point out to the controlling officer, because when we go out to do the assessments, we engage the controlling officer that we are here, our officers are here, they are assessing this. And when they do the assessments and the compliance report, they go and do an exit meeting with the controlling officer again. So to answer your question, yes, those submissions have been made, and I think from as far back as 2019. And we are amenable to that. The only thing is that we have to look at the gaps, and then we can also recommend. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director. ZPPA. PS have highlighted a few issues to that effect, and that's the position of this committee. So we implore you to ensure that these things are done. I think if there's something we haven't gotten correctly, our clerk, the way should still write that those things are looked at, and Auditor General can do certain verifications. But as for TFM contract, we are still at sea, very much at sea, and you shall be advised accordingly. I wish to thank you most sincerely for coming again before this honorable committee, PS, and your team, and we are here to provide the much needed oversight to the executive to ensure that there is accountability, which brings in good governance and service delivery to the Zambian people, especially with you officers who are conferred with a mandate to appropriate public resources on behalf of us Zambians and the entire country. We do thank you most sincerely. And now let me take this opportunity to lift the immunity which was conferred before you, PS, that has been lifted. And let me thank also the former PS for coming before this honorable committee. That shows commitment to saving this country. PS, former PS Ngulube, we are grateful, and we thank you so much for coming to be with us this day. PS, thank you so much, and you are free to go. Thank you.
Not only